Back to the features written code. This is part of my learn to build a mobile app using Ionic framework and ReactJS with Capacitor. This is like the third video in the series. I put out one earlier in the week, which was more about about dealing with rendering issues between tabs. But this is a continuation of the first two where I'm talking about managing state between tabs. I'm going to modify that application that I had last time around, and I'm going to change this context provider to manage context from manage authentication context. This is a pattern you'll see very often. And then the other thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to modify the way we manage the routes here so that you only have access to this authenticated route when you're authenticated, and we'll create a separate set of routes that you use when you are not authenticated. As usual, in order to save time and energy, basic code I will just cut and paste, so let's get at it. Let's first start out by creating a login page. So let's create pages. We will create a login page in here. I am using TypeScript, and like I said, this is something we're just going to cut and paste because there's no real magic going on here. First, we get the top of our page, and then we need our title. We will need to return something and export it. So, and we are going to use a login function, so let's create a function now. Const do login login. Right now it's just going to be a stub because we don't really have anything going on in there, but now we have our basic login page in place. And where are we going to use that login page? So what we really want to do is we want to split this up, right? So we are going to create another set of routes here. IonicRouter, IonicRouter, and what we're going to do is, let's get this out of the way for now, because I don't think we're going to move our provider. So what we want to do here is we want to wrap this. We want to say if you're not authenticated, then show this first set of routes. If you are authenticated, then show the next set. And we'll get this value in a minute here, but let's wrap this up here. We are going to remove our provider. We're going to comment that. Let's see if we can format this. I don't know if it's going to let me. Yeah, it's going to let me format this there. And so here's where we're going to stick our login page, right? So let's, like I said, I'm a copier. So let's do a couple of things here. So first, let's do this. If you're not logged in and you come in, the default route should be to the login route. And now let's create the login route. And so we're going to use our login page here. And we're going to create our login route. Okay, so and then let's import my login page. Okay, import. Oh, it's default, so I don't need it in there. From, I'm not really a typer for those who've been following along. Pages, login page. For a document. Okay, so if you're not authenticated, then just show the login set of routes right now, which is only a login page. If you are authenticated, then show all the same old stuff. So that's what we got here. So let's save that. Now, so we have our pages. So we our one new page, our login page, and we have our routes. So now it's complaining. So let's go to my context. And let's update my context. So what the whole idea here is all the authentication information we want to maintain inside of this context. And just to make it clear, let's kind of rename this thing. So let's start by calling this my auth provider, A-U-T-H, D-E-R. So this is my auth provider. Let's figure, I don't know why this guy's complaining. I don't think I've ever had to do that before, but let's do that, see if that makes that go away. All right, so now we have my auth provider. What is React complaining? Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to change, instead of shared value, we want to call these auth values, right? And auth values are authenticated, right? I can't type. Let's just copy it so you know what I'm talking about. So this is the value that we want here. So this is going to be an auth value. Auth value authenticated, right? So we're going to take this and we're going to put this in here. Authenticated, we're going to start out as going to be false. And then we're going to have a user, which is going to start out as null. And inside of my authentication context, what do I really want? I want to be able to log in, and I want to be able to log out. And so let's put those functions together. Const. All right, I think I have these. Let's get these functions together. Just drop these in here. So here's my login function. So what we're going to do in our login function, we're going to take a username and password. If the username's Aaron and the password's Aaron, then we're going to resolve it to true. If it's not, we're going to resolve it to false. So basically, if you enter Aaron /Aaron, then you get logged in. And then for logout, since there's really, yeah, let's do our logout. So for logout, we're just going to return true. And then the other thing that we're going to do is when I log out, we're going to set, let's change this name so it makes sense. Set auth values. So we're going to set the auth values to right here. We're going to reset them back to null and null because that's what happens when you're logged out. Everybody's gone. So let's clean this up. Set values null and null. But up here, when the login is true, we want to set the auth values to authenticated as true. And we want to set the user, we're just going to put a dummy user in here. User, and we're going to set that user to be the user. And then we're going to set an ID to be Aaron 100 for me being logged in. Okay? Clean this up. So what we have is we have our auth provider, and our auth provider keeps track of auth values. And also our auth provider is what you use to log in and log out. And so we have the functions login and we have the functions log out. With those two functions, we're not going to export this because I don't think there's a need right now to set this authentication state outside of here. So let's remove this. And so we're exposing through my context here in the state the auth values, which are if you're authenticated or not, and who the user is, and then the two functions to log you in and to log you out. And this function returns a promise. This function returns a promise. So I think I have my context straight. Now let's see if we can fix some of these errors and get this thing to compile. All right. So let's go look about. Oh, so let's change it to auth values. Now let's go. Let's get up to the top. So we took a provider out. So what we're going to do is we remove our provider all the way up here to the top level. So what we want to do is we want to wrap this thing in my auth provider. So let's just take this guy. Come on. Come on. All right. So now I wrap my whole app in my auth provider. And so that's straight. Now, why is that acting bugging? Let's see. I did. Why is it saying it can't find React? That's strange. Okay. So now let's go here to this. And right now, we don't need the auth provider here, but what we do need from here is we need our values. Auth values. Oh, yeah. We're just complaining. A provider, where's this? This is in my login page. Let's see what we've got going on my login page. Why is this? Authenticated is not used on context any. Oh, so back here in my app. This is wrong. This should be this. That's right. Auth values. Did I export it properly from my context? Let me make sure I did this right. What am I doing? What am I doing? I don't get it from there. I get my context from here. So I get my auth. I get my auth context from there, and then what we do is we use a awesome React hook to get access to my context. And so now I get my context auth values from my context. Sorry, this is the default, so I don't need it in the brackets. And then I get my auth values from my context, and then from my values I have authenticated, which by default should be set to false. Oh, see, I didn't think I needed that in there. That was just some weird foolishness. Hold on, let me get back to my context. And switch this out of here. I don't need that in there. Okay. What's a complaining? Tab user is not assignable to yep, null. So now we're getting down into the this TypeScript foolishness. So how can I address this? I think I can address it by doing this. Okay. So now we're straight. So if we, so you got no errors. So let's kind of walk through what we are seeing. Let's close some of these pages. Refresh this thing and kind of walk you through what I've done so far. So what I've done is I've split this main route that you're the main entry point. If you are not authenticated, then only show me the login page. If you are authenticated, then show me all the tabs in the tabs routes, right? And so to switch between authenticated and not authenticated, oh, and let me just make sure I show you how we got this in here, because this is a step that sometimes miss. We wrapped the whole app in the auth provider that I got from my context. So now that the whole app has been wrapped in it, it allows me inside either my login page, which is where I'm going to get access to the login, but even here in my app, I can get access to the context and extract values and functions from here. So now that we did that, let's show how we're going to get that in my login page. So we're going to take my context here. I'm going to my login page, and I am going to get my context. And I believe I need to go up another level. And then inside of here, the same way we got the auth values, I'm going to go into my login page, and I am going to get the values, but I don't want the values here. I want my login function. Right? So that's the guy I want. And then what I want to do is inside of do login, since I'm not really getting any information here on the page, normally you would get the username and password, but since just to kind of show you guys what this is, and like I said, I don't want to make too long a video, we're just going to, let's put an await on here, and we're going to call my login function. And so let result equal login. Await function. Why is this guy bugging? Use auth context. Const equals do login. Oh, this should be async. Sorry. Async we get my result. If result, then let's use another cool hook that we have. So we can say const history use history. So we get use history, and then here we'll say history replace. And since we're going to assume the login successful, we're going to say replace, and we're going to send you to tab 1 because that's where we need you to go. So after you log in, your default should be to tab 1 format. Otherwise, we aren't going to do anything. And then what should happen, because if we look at my login function, so let's save this. If I go back to my context, in my login function, the function, no, actually it's expecting username and password. Let me go fix this. So here, let's pass my login function, user, all right. So when I go back to my login function says if I get username and Aaron and password Aaron, and I set my auth values, which should set authentication to true, which is the real trigger. And because it's reactive, what will happen is here, auth values authenticated will be true. It will go past this route, and it will now go down to this set of routes. It will find the tab route, and it should log me in and show me tab page 1. So let's give it a go and see what we get. Login, we logged in, we get it. It took me to the right page. And then when I refresh, it doesn't work. But because it's a hot reload and it's leaving the same default tab, and that default route doesn't exist here, let's kind of put a catch-all route on the bottom here. So if it's not login, if it's not default path, if I get anything else here and you're not authenticated, I'm just going to redirect you to login. So, see, now we got it. So let's clean this up. And so if I put blah, 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 any route that's not right, if you're not logged in, it's going to redirect you to login, and then we get the tab. All right, and so let's do one last thing, which is since we're not using these buttons anymore here, let's log you out. So tab 1, this should be pretty straightforward. Let's do another thing. Let's also, since we have access to our context here, let's rename this. So this is auth context now. And then we want to use the auth context. And out of the auth context, we can get, we want two things. We want our logout function, but we also want our auth values. I think it's values. And then we can say here, auth values user. Let's get rid of this first button. Let's change this to logout. Logout has no parameters. Let's rename it. And what do we got? All right, so what I'm doing here is this should give me the auth value, and I should show you the name of the person that's logged in. This should call my logout function, which is part of my context. And as you know, let's say this, my logout function here will reset authenticated to false, which is reactive, so it should reset my routes. And then let's do one more thing here. Let's on this page, tab 1. Do I want to do, yeah, I'm going to be lazy. And also because we're getting long in the tooth here with this thing. So let's do const history, history equals use history. So use history. We got it. And then we're going to take my history. And on the end here, I'm going to say history replace. Oh, this is complaining it wants these brackets. So we're going to history replace, and on logout, we're going to send you back to login. Okay. Let's see what we got now. So login, you see my user. So I'm getting my user information. Tab 2, tab 1, my original tab stuff still work. And now on our logout, it sends me back to login page. And just to make sure, let's try to go to tab 1. All right, can't go to tab 1 because I'm not authenticated. My state has been updated. And where I manage the context, you can see I still have access to the values that are associated to the context. Let me log in again, because that's another thing I see. So for example, if this was a slide-in menu or something like that, the question I always see is like, how do I get access to this information? Well, the way you get access to the information is through the context, right? So you call use context wherever you want it, ask for the auth values, and then you have access to the values to use. So, like I said, this is a quick run through on how to use context for a simple authentication flow. As I move along, we'll actually connect it back into this. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Like I said, I like to try and keep them short. Please like and subscribe. The future's written in code. Thank you. Bye.